Bush says. Let's go to that clip now.
Mr. President, earlier this year you told us you had ordered your administration to cease and desist on payments to journalists to promote your agenda. You cited the need for ethical concerns and the need for a bright line between the press and the government. Your administration continues to make the use of video news releases, which are prepackaged news stories sent to television stations, fully aware that some or many of these stations will air them without any disclaimer that they are produced by the government. Comptroller General of the United States this week said that raises ethical questions. Does it raise ethical questions about the use of government money to produce stories about the government that wind up being aired with no disclosure that they were produced by the government?
There is a Justice Department opinion that says these pieces are within the law so long as they're based upon facts, not advocacy. And I expect our agencies to adhere to that ruling, to that Justice Department opinion. This has been a long-standing practice of the federal government to use these types of videos. Agricultural Department, as I understand, has been using these videos for a long period of time. The Defense Department, other departments have been doing so. It's important that they be based upon the guidelines set out by the Justice Department. Now, I think it'd be helpful if local stations then disclose to their viewers if that's, that this was based upon a factual report and they chose to use it. But evidently in some cases that's not the case. So anyway.
To guarantee that's happening by including that language in the prepackaged report.
Yeah, I don't, look, oh, you mean a disclosure on George W. Bush and I?
Well, some way to make sure it couldn't air without the disclosure that you believe is so vital.
Ken, I mean, there's a procedure that we're going to follow, and the local stations ought to, if there's a deep concern about that, ought to tell their viewers what they're watching.
So there you go. Federal government sending out prepackaged propaganda packaged as and disguised as legitimate news sources. And there you see George W. Bush being confronted with this and sort of, oh, well, I mean, this is what's the thing that I don't thank God he's not in the office anymore. But yeah, and this is still going on, still completely going on. And on top of that, you have the Smith-Mundt Act and the Smith-Mundt Modernization Act, which modernized that and essentially allowed propaganda that had always been made to show to foreign audiences. Now it can be shown to American audiences. So not just are the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the Foxes and all these major MSM platforms infiltrated by and working in cooperation with the intelligence agencies and the deep state. The deep state itself, the government itself, is producing its own stuff and putting it out there as if it's news. So why do you think we have such an unbalanced and one-sided political discussion here in America? I'm going to go back out to calls for the remainder of this segment. We're going to go to Ryan in Florida. Let's talk about the NWO. Ryan in Florida, thanks for calling in. You're on the air.
Thanks, Harrison, man. I really appreciate you taking my call. I just want to let you know you're doing a fantastic job covering for David Knight. Hopefully you'll get your own show. But
stay tuned.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to touch on the fact that you were talking about, or the fact that you brought up about them slowly attacking the word globalism and trying to control our speech through sort of the whole dog whistle thing for, anti-Semitism. I think this is a real issue because this happens, obviously not only with anti-Semitism, but with every race, every color and creed, except for white people. When white people do something wrong, obviously it's all white people's fault. But you're not allowed to bring up any sort of facts, even if they're statistics. And, I really urge anybody listening to just go ahead and go on the FBI crime statistics and just actually look up where most and almost all of our crime is happening and who it's being done by. And obviously it's being done in blue cities, Democrat-run areas. And, 50% of all of our murders are by blacks. And, that's an issue. And they're murdering a lot of black people. So that's an epidemic no matter which way you look at it. And, it doesn't mean that there's going to be a set issue where, blacks do most crimes, so then blacks are always going to do crime. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, if you look at our, like I say, look at our statistics, blacks are only 14% of our total population of roughly 14%, but they're doing half the murders. And usually it's not the women and children doing it, it's the men, the young adult men between 15 to 35, and that's only roughly 5% of our population. So 5% is doing half the murders, and then any other violent crime, whether it's rape, it's robbery, it's assault, anything like that, they're doing at least 30% of those. So everybody wants to talk about getting rid of white people and fixing our gun issue and fixing our issues in America. But if you take away the undocumented immigrant issue, and if you just, move blacks aside, boom, 80% of murders, and then 60% of all your violent crimes in America are gone. So even if you got rid of white people,
it's one of these questions that I want to go around and ask people. And does it have to be false to be hate speech, or can statistics or reality be hateful? And it's one of these things that's happening now. And you're exactly right. If we want to deal with gun violence, we want to deal with crime, we have to face the facts and see what's going on. And of course, we're not saying all black people are violent or anything like that.
Right.
But when you hear so often, it's like white people are the most dangerous and white people are the ones you should fear. And it's like, well, I mean, can you back that up with anything? We'll discuss it more on the other side. Don't go anywhere, folks.
The sons of liberty.
Harrison Smith sitting in for David Knight. I held over our last caller, Ryan, because what we're talking about is sensitive. It's a sensitive topic, and it deserves the full context, so it can't be taken out of context. And Ryan was talking about the disparity between crime rates between races, and I think we're exactly on the same page, where it's like, I don't judge anybody by what other people do, right? If I judge everybody by an individual standard, and I think that's a pretty standard thing. It's a pretty American thing to do, and we should not be castigating or casting an entire race of people because of what some of the outliers of that race do. I don't like when it's done to white people. I don't like when it's done to black people. And we need all these people on our side. We need everybody to come together and just be Americans and understand that we all have a common interest in improving the lives of all people in America. And we can't destroy the lives of some people in order to make other people's lives better. It's totally irresponsible. It's totally just bad strategy, I guess you could say. I'm not going to improve myself by tearing other people down, and yet that seems to be like the main political stance of so many people in America. So let's bring Ryan back on the air and just.
Hey man, thank you. I appreciate you holding me back over. That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I didn't give you that long to talk in the last segment. These types of topics you need to really talk about. We need to really spend time on, or else people can get the wrong idea. But
right, yeah, you can't have sound bites, because that's just going to cause more attacks against Infowars for no reason. Same thing they do with Trump. When Trump talks about the criminals that are coming through the border, obviously we know he's not talking about every person with dark skin. He's talking about how 30% of our federal prisons are full of illegal immigrants. So that means they're doing they're doing hardcore crimes, and they're supposedly only, maybe roughly, like I said before, maybe 3% of our population, but they're doing a third of everything. And so, yeah, maybe we do need to look at that issue and be honest about it. And we also need to look at the, tying it into the anti-Semitism, globalist, rhetoric they're saying now. That's the same thing they're doing with, Islamophobe or homophobe or whatever. If you're saying, if there's an issue with a group, you're not allowed to point it out. And so there are Zionist Jews who aren't just nationalists, but they're supremacists. They're people who want to put other countries down in favor of their own. That's not what true nationalism is. Nationalism in America is wanting to promote your country, not at the cost of every other country, but working hard and helping others if you can, but focusing on your own house, your own family, basically. And so, when you have all of this, the Federal Reserve, and you have all these banks, and you have all these companies that can, and all these positions of power in America that are all being led by Jews, when Jews are only 2%, maybe 3% of the population, you have to scratch your head and be like, well, how and why are they in that position? And how are they keep getting grandfathered in? I'm not saying there's an overall conspiracy, but if they were all Chinese people, if they were all Asians running our Federal Reserve, if they were all Asians running, our major corporations and legislators, and they are behind all these different things and they're donors to all these different people, you start scratching your head. But nobody is allowed to think, and it's what Alex Jones always warns about, the incremental attacks on your liberties, whether it's gun rights or it's your freedom of speech or it's your freedom of thought. And when you do that, you're just chipping away and chipping away. And so it might not be your generation, it might not be our generation that isn't allowed to get guns, but our kids' generation, well, they're going to have some issues because now we're having red flag laws. And if somebody, in your family that doesn't even live in, the state you live in, they can call up and say that you're a hazard, or a friend or ex-girlfriend or whatever, and they can get your guns taken away. And so, they're going to kick your door in if you don't let them in. They're going to shoot your dog. They're going to take your guns, and they're going to say, this is for your safety. Don't worry. We're the good guys. And, if it's for 5 minutes they have your guns or it's for 5 years, it's still too long. And, it's the incremental attack on your liberty that people really need to look out for. And people are too afraid to talk nowadays because they don't want to be labeled a racist. And, even with Obama, I'm 25 and I've been listening to you guys since I was like maybe 11 or 12. And, I was one of the only people in my kind of grade that was anti-Obama. And everybody thought it was because I was racist. I'm like, no, I just don't like how un-American he is, literally not American, but, how, unconstitutional he is and how authoritarian and communism he pushes. And,
right.
That's an issue.
Yeah, and that is exactly the danger, is it prevents valid discussion about the issues that we're talking about. And so, and it's like, it's the same thing. It's like, when Jonathan Greenblatt says, let's use the banks and the big tech companies to shut down speech that we don't like, I'm like, all right, well, that sounds awful fascist to me. And as a libertarian whose ideology is literally the exact opposite of that, the exact opposite of coercive control, the exact opposite of using the power that you have to shut down the freedoms of other people, I'm against that. And then you have people going, oh, it's because he's Jewish. And it's like, no, I'm not going to, not talk about it because Jewish. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm talking about it because what he's advocating doing. And it's just, it confuses the entire issue. You can't talk about anything bad that's happening being done by people because they're either protected by their status or they're not protected by their status, or they're white, they're black. It's like, I advocate a policy I like to refer to as extreme deracialism. I literally think it should be a law that you should not be able to discuss race in terms of hiring practices or any of this stuff. I think it should be literally illegal to just discuss that at all, even in certain things like statistics, because you take away the race thing and you find that, oh, look, these neighborhoods are clustered with violence, and what's going on there, and what are the causes of the violence? How do we go, how far do we go back? Can we find the corruption somewhere? Can we find where we went off the rails? And of course, it's complicated because we do have a history in this country of racial discrimination that was encoded in law, and you can't put that off to the side. And so there is validity in discussing race in certain issues, and especially in certain ways where they go, look, these people have been targeted because they're black, and so let's take that out of the equation, and let's say let's not target anybody, any positive or negative, and we can still look back into our history and say we see the past that we have. We see that there was coercive Jim Crow laws and all these sorts of things. We aren't saying, oh, ignore that and oh, it's something that we can just throw off to the side. No, we need to have a clear eyes. We need to know the facts about everything, even if it's uncomfortable or whatever, even if it's not approved of by the MSM. The Sun Tzu, and this isn't quite an appropriate quote, but the term is you can't win if you don't know your enemies and know yourself. And it's about having a full spectrum of knowledge and not having certain knowledge hidden from you because it's inconvenient, because then you cannot solve the problem. It's like we have to figure out exactly what's going on. And the funny thing is, I mean, when you talk about the black population, and if you can generalize at all, I found in my personal experience, black people I talk to are way more aware of what's going on than any other people. I mean, you talk about what the black population in America has been through everything from MLK being threatened, you better commit suicide by the FBI, and just all this sort of stuff. And it's like, they know that, they're growing up with that. They're aware that like the government does shady stuff, sometimes based on race, and they're doing it to keep people down, keep these people down for this reason. These people keep these people down for this reason. It's like, we're on your side. We want everybody to be totally free. We want everybody to be able to enjoy America without taking advantage of or tearing down anybody else. It's important, but it's a sensitive topic, and it's hard to even discuss the topic without feeling like you're stepping on somebody's toes. But we love everybody. We want everybody to be happy, and we want to get to a point that we don't have to discuss race, that we don't have to talk about that. We can just talk about these are the bad people doing because they do bad things. These are the good people because they love liberty in America and love everybody else. Thanks for the call, Ryan in Florida. I expect angry emails because I didn't express myself perfectly well. But, I think I just try to be real here in front of you and talk about the discussions that we have in mainstream media. And my God, they're obsessed with race. So we have to talk about it sometimes. It's uncomfortable. You've been winding it down the second hour of the David Knight Show. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, sitting in for David Knight as he enjoys a well-deserved vacation. Will Johnson joins me in the next hour. I'm going to try to finish up with your calls here in this segment. Lots of good videos that I have not gotten to yet that you will want to stay tuned for, including one of the most hilarious videos I've ever seen, unintentionally hilarious. That's the Democratic Socialist Convention, which you may have seen clips of, and we'll laugh at it all together, and some not so funny videos of what's going on in Hong Kong and exactly what happens when the people are defenseless against their government. And as well, we will be watching a movie trailer for a Universal Pictures production, which essentially has its main characters hunting and killing Trump supporters. Very crazy, crazy stuff going on in the media and the world today, and we will be covering it all in the next hour. But first, I want to go out to your calls. Chuck in Michigan has been waiting on the line for a little while. Chuck in Michigan, thank you so much for calling in. You're on the air. Thanks for calling, Chuck.
Hey, hi, Harrison. Hey, man, I just got to let you know, you were, when you first came on to take over for Dave Knight, when he was down for a while, I was amazed at the quality that you got there as backup to bring it. I want you to be encouraged. You have got the biggest, best megaphone there is that I know of. So just hang in there, man. And
thank you very much. I'm just humbled to be given this platform. So thank you for the encouragement. It really is. We have the best fans. It's like ridiculous.
Speaking of the Hong Kong, the takeover of people that are not armed and can't protect themselves. And also, speaking of the caller was talking about the incremental chipping away of our liberties. I just wanted to share an amazing, amazing book, and I hope that some of you will write this down, get a hold of it. It is the most amazing thing I've ever heard when it comes to this idea that they're now going to try to steal our Second Amendment rights away with, and that is by, I think it was Rush Limbaugh, the first one I ever heard use the term psychobabble. I know Dave Knight used it the other day, psychobabble. It is the idea that we're going to turn people over by somebody alleging, I'm afraid he's going to shoot me, so take his guns away. That is an infringement of our rights, and it's based on psychobabble. There is a Boston University, I hope you might even get a hold of her to do an interview with this lady. She's amazing. Dr. Margaret Hagan is a PhD, and she's a whistleblower. She's a PhD in developmental psychology. She teaches at Boston University, prestigious school, and she has done a whistleblowing book on psychology, on the fraud that psychology is. And now we think we're going to turn all these people's Second Amendment rights over to, and even Trump seems to be being influenced, I guess, by Ivanka, is from what I heard, to turn us over to the psychologist as to who's going to have a Second Amendment right. Anyway, right. I do want to mention the name of the book. It's called Horrors of the Court, and the subtitle is The Fraud of Psychiatric Testimony and the Rape of American Justice by Margaret A. Hagan, M.D., Horrors of the Court. An amazing book. I've never read anything like it. So well done. And I hope some of you guys, like Dave Knight and yourself, might get a hold of this book. It will blow a whole new area wide open as to how they're trying to steal our Second Amendment rights this time.
Yeah, you know what? I'm right there with you. In fact, it was yesterday or the day before I tweeted out a picture, because the most amazing thing to me is you listen to the Democrat debates, and they're so quick and they're so vehemently demonize the pharmaceutical industry, right? They're like, oh, the pharmaceutical, they're evil. They're flooding our country with opiates just to earn a nickel, and they hate these people. And so under that, I did a little meme of, you have Senator Palpatine on one side and it says psychiatry, and the emperor on the other and it says big pharma, because at the same time that they're demonizing big pharma, that they're saying, oh, they're evil and they just want to make money and control you, then they're saying, let's give our rights over to the psychiatrists, who are hand in hand, who are the engine churning big pharma. You want to talk about, medication and big pharma and mind control and all this sort of stuff. Psychiatry is right there mixed up in it, and it's incredibly dangerous. And even, I mean, if you look at what they're terming the new, like conspiracy theories will be a mental illness, and just not believing the MSM will be considered a mental illness. And they do strange things, like they change they change transgenderism from body dysmorphia to body dysphoria, so it's still covered under insurance. You can still use insurance to get the surgery for it, but the way it's termed is no longer that you are upset because your mind is wrong and your body's right. It's flipped around. Dysphoria means that your mind is right, but your body's wrong. I mean, it's so much intricate corruption within psychiatry, and it truly is a dangerous situation that we find ourselves in. Very good points, Chuck.
To get an idea of how bold they've been, this isn't just some conspiracy theory. The people coming back from Afghanistan, from Iraq and Iran, Syria, where they've been doing battle in the battlefield. Right now, the psychiatrists, when those veterans come back to the United States and are going to be integrated back into America, they're being questioned with things like very subtle questions, like, do you feel any stress coming back to this side of the world from the world you've been in? And if those people are naive enough to not know what is happening, and they say something innocent like, well, yeah, it's going to be a little different than it was in the battle zone over there. I feel some stress. They're marked to have their Second Amendment rights taken away. And these are the people that know how to use the guns to be able to protect the country here that our founding fathers intended for us to have. And yet, under Obama, those people were being marked in mass for not being able to have and exercise their Second Amendment rights. This is what they're going to try to do to us. If Trump, I mean, we've got to get through to Trump that, Ivanka, she may be soft-hearted at all toward what's going on down on the border and with these mass shootings. But we can't give our Second Amendment rights away to psychobabblers.
Yep. No, I completely agree with you, Chuck. You're hitting the nail on the head here. And, of course, the veterans are one of the main targets of this. And it's because, as Alex Jones puts it, they want to spike the cannon. They've created a dangerous weapon, and they don't want it turned against them. So, as soon as they get back, they're loaded down with the psychiatric medication. They can't get help through the VA because the VA is so mismanaged. It's totally on purpose. It's not an accident. They're doing this because they fear uprising from the people of America once the people of America figure out all of the corrupt BS that they're getting into. Very good call from Chuck. Chuck, any last words before I let you go?
Yeah. Just one last thing. Please, listeners, write this one down. The name of the book, Horrors of the Court, and the subtitle is The Fraud of Psychiatric Testimony and the Rape of American Justice. How that's being done through psychiatrists in the court system, and you get sucked in and you got to go hire more psychiatrists to take your side or whatever. It's absolutely bizarre. I've seen this happening, and it's not a way to handle our Second Amendment, I guarantee.
Yep, and like the headline or the tweet that I read earlier, how far can we abridge the Second Amendment before we accidentally abridge the First Amendment as well? It's like this is not good the way they're combining both of these and destroying both of them is very pernicious and dangerous. Thanks so much for the call, Chuck from Michigan. Thank you. We wind down the second hour here, and I implore you, ladies and gentlemen, InfoWarriors all, please proceed in due course to InfoWarsStore.com and take advantage of our ridiculously low sale prices for the banniversary. And this really is a celebration. I mean, it's been a year since we were banned off every social media. Not only have we not been destroyed, we have only grown. Just last week, I moved into a whole new office in InfoWars. I have a whole wing to myself now as we continue to expand, continue to hire more people, continue to bring you the information you need, unfiltered, uncensored, straight to you over the internet, over the radio, over the cable systems where we are carried. Thank you so much for helping us get here, and please continue to shoot us off into the future and only get stronger, only get better. Speaking of, I will be joined by Will Johnson, who is a new addition to InfoWars and a powerful weapon arrayed against the enemy. Help us, everything that we do, InfoWarsStore.com. That's how we make money. That's how we keep this boat afloat. Everything you do there, every dollar you spend there goes right back into the operation, is another bullet in our chamber as we wage this war of information against those who would conceal the truth from you and enslave you in that process. The banniversary, it's on now. Incredible sales, as always, but these are really something else. InfoWarsStore.com. Take advantage of these sales, folks. You won't regret it.
Welcome to Free America Law Center. We have needed for quite some time a law organization dedicated to protecting the freedom of speech, the freedom of thought, and the freedom of press in America against big tech and big media colluding, using their powers to deplatform, their powers to defame, and deep state harassing those whistleblowers who come clean to protect our rights of free elections, free speech, free thought in America. We have long needed a counterpart to the Southern Poverty Law Center, a counterpart to the ACLU, an ACLU that represents everybody, not just the left, to do for civil rights and civil liberties in the modern digital age what the NAACP achieved in the 1960s and 70s for the rights of African Americans in this country. We need to extend that and expand that. And thus, the people have spoken, and you have been heard. Many of you have called for the creation of a law organization dedicated to protecting the legal rights of ordinary individuals and the public for the freedom of press and the freedom of speech and the freedom of thought against the power of big tech, taking them and removing them from their platforms, denying the public membership access to the various public square platforms that dominate the public debate and public discussion today, the various efforts of big media to defame and libel and lie about people because of their political beliefs, to target them for lawfare and libel in ways that are unprecedented and unparalleled in our history. Hence, Free America Law Center at www.freeamericalawcenter.com. Now, this organization depends on you. You get to decide what to make of it. You get to decide what power we are able to wield. We have put together the lawyers who are willing, ready, and able to assist. We have put together the legal team and the public relations team to be able to make this organization as successful as any other. But it will depend ultimately on you. We offer each person a monthly subscription rate at a discounted $17.76 a month, meant to reflect the citizens of 76 as the promises of the First Amendment and the Constitution and our Bill of Rights. Subscribers will receive a digital book each week that's about the Bill of Rights series, so that you can be self-informed and self-educated to protect your First Amendment freedoms. In addition, we will be providing a weekly Q&A podcast where you can ask questions that our legal team will answer each week that will be exclusive to those who are monthly subscribers. Your willingness to participate in this organization can make real the the promise that you have sought, a law center organization dedicated to equalizing the playing field and balancing it out to protect the free speech and free press rights of all Americans, not just those of any particular political or ideological stripe. The Free America Law Center also supports Robin Gritz, a long-standing national security FBI agent who works side by side with General Flynn to protect us from terror. But when she exposed corruption and rogue activities within the deep state portion of the FBI, people like Andrew McCabe, people like James Comey, she was the one railroaded outside the FBI. That is why we represent her to achieve justice to defend those who blow the whistle on deep state corruption. Free America Law Center is also supporting Alex Jones and InfoWars, which is the tip of the spear for First Amendment rights in this country, both the freedom of press and the freedom of speech. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Google have all targeted Alex Jones and InfoWars to use it as a template for how they can discriminate against other public speakers and members of the independent press across the nation. His case is everyone's case. His freedom is everyone's freedom. That's why Free America Law Center is supporting those cases and supporting the lawyers bringing those cases and supporting the legal actions necessary for justice to be done and for the rights of the First Amendment to be protected for all. So we have heard your calls for those actions to be taken, your calls for this organization to be created. The people have spoken and you have been heard. This organization, Free America Law Center, is in response to your request. You can make it a reality so we can restore the First Amendment for all in America.
That's Robert Barnes, friend of InfoWars, friend of the show, Free America Law Center. Folks, I'll tell you, I interact with a lot of smart people on a daily basis. Even just our callers are mind-blowingly smart half the time. 90% of the time, I should say. Robert Barnes is one of those people you sit down and talk to, and his intelligence just blows you away. I'm totally humbled anytime I talk to Robert Barnes. I'm like, this dude has a memory like a steel trap. He knows how to use his words to great effect. So absolutely something we should all be supporting. The Free America Law Center. Will Johnson joins me for the final hour of the David Knight Show. Stay tuned, folks. We'll be right back. Tonight, joined by William Johnson. Is it William Johnson? Will Johnson? Just Will. Will Johnson. Sounds, all right. And we're going to be talking about what we've been talking about. We're going to continue to show you some very important videos and some very hilarious videos, especially of the Democratic Socialist Convention going on right now. And I can't wait to see Will's reaction to that, because apparently he hasn't seen it, and you will want to stay tuned for that. But
is that the one where they're up there saying safe space, and then the guy got up there and said, "You need to stop using gender."
Yes,
exactly. I did see that craziness. I did.
There's hours of footage. I think it's, the Daily Caller put together a really good cut of it. I guess let's go to that now. I want to go to this now because I want to start this hour off on a high note. I want to start laughing because we're going to be talking about some less than funny stuff as we continue in. But guys, let's get which y'all have it ready? 12, clip 12. All right, this is the Democratic Socialist of America Convention. This video is by the Daily Caller. We'll laugh along. Let's play, y'all.
Right.
Quick point of privilege. Quick point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Guys, first of all, James Jackson, Sacramento, he, him. I just want to say, can we please keep the chatter to a minimum? I'm one of the people who's very, very prone to sensory overload. There's a lot of whispering and chatter going on. It's making it very difficult for me to focus. Please, can we just, I know we're all fresh and ready to go, but can we please just keep the chatter to a minimum? It's affecting my ability to focus. Thank you.
Thank you, comrade. Okay, is there a speaker against name, chapter, pronoun?
Point of personal privilege.
Yes.
Please do not use gendered language to address everyone.
Okay.
She's like,
Quick point of privilege once again. Quick point of privilege once again. Hi, James Jackson, Sacramento DSA, he, him. I have already asked people to be mindful of the chatter of their comrades who are sensitive to sensory overload, and that goes double for the heckling and the hissing. It is also triggering to my anxiety. Like, the be comradely doesn't just isn't just for, like, you know, like, think people or whatever.
Please stop being so
people
loud.
aren't going to get triggered, and so that it doesn't affect their performance as a delegate, okay? Your need to express yourself is important, but your need to express yourself should not trump or
Like,
I see that no one's
want to use that word. Yeah.
It could be because I'm not engaging, but it also is because everyone's doing this. And that's really important because those loud bursts of noise, even though this is a noisy space, when we can do something like reducing that, that's really important. So please don't clap, shoot up these. We have a lot of disabled comrades, and a lot of those are invisible disabilities. You don't know who it is that is having a more difficult time navigating this space, and this space was not created with all of their needs in mind. So it's up to us to modify that space to make sure that everybody is able to move in the ways that they need to move.
This is insanity.
And additionally with the noise issue, like avoid hissing, avoid waving banners, right? Because there's all sorts of things. You don't know what to do, show up these, right? I'm sure there's lots of ways that
and only
we
raise
can
your
communicate
hands like
to each
you're in
other without
kindergarten.
needing to rely on something that's going to hurt somebody else. We have quiet rooms that are available. There's a range of options of these, right? Please don't go in that space with anything that's like an aggressive scent, for instance, right? Because we don't want to put people
Wow, so
in
then it
stressful
goes to
situations
scent
that they don't
even.
consent to, right? And there are right-wing infiltrators who are trying to get in here, but it's going to be really traumatic for people if we're not making an affirmative effort to de-escalate each other and de-escalate ourselves, right? Take a deep breath. And feel better before you say anything. Don't really talk to anybody who doesn't have a credential, especially claim to be from the press. You have no idea who that person is.
Enemies.
Please do not talk to anybody who identifies themselves as a member of the press without having credentials.
These people are crazy.
Don't
see. You know what? That shows right there the mental illness
almost there.
that they keep referring to. We need to address mental illness.
We are going to be visited tomorrow by some MAGA protesters. Is there
MAGA protesters.
Abortion clinic escort work? By all means, don't
man,
talk
I already
to cops
missed California.
I
would have been there
at all, right?
I guess you can only have this type of craziness in California.
Let the marshals know. We are safe and we are strong because there's power in collective work.
I mean, that's what you got, Will, was strength and power. That's what was projected during that video, is how strong and powerful they are.
How strong and ludicrous they are.
It's amazing. And
wow.
I have to point this out. Guys, did y'all grab those two images that I put in there? Because every time I have to point this out. This is that's Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, but there in the background is the logo of the Democratic Socialist of America. Do y'all have these two images? All right. You need to find the logo of the Democratic Socialists of America, and you also need to find the logo of INGSOC, INGSOC, because literally the logo of the Democratic Socialists of America is the logo of the party from 1984.
Really?
Yeah. It's literally the logo.
It's not even hiding it any longer. Everyone is saying they're not even hiding their craziness any longer, and they're blatantly just out with it.
Yeah. And that's it. And they're the ones who are winning. These are the ones who have people in Congress. There you go. There's INGSOC from 1984, English Socialist, and there you have the DSA logo. So they changed the rose, the V for victory to a rose, but
it's the same thing.
It's the same thing. I have to point this out anytime we talk about the DSA. I have to point out that they have literally the same logo as the party from 1984.
Wow.
Everyone needs to know this.
Sure is.
Same party, same platform, same talking points.
Same ideology.
I would not be surprised at all if they didn't have a 5 minutes of hate.
So maybe this mental illness is hereditary. I can't even get out. Maybe it is something that they keep passing on.
Oh, hereditary.
Maybe it is
a hard word.
Maybe it is something that they keep passing on from generation to generation to child to child, because you're seeing how these people from 1984, they're going to bring the same thing alive today.
Yep.
With the same craziness. Hereditary. There it is.
Hereditary.
There it is. Had to get it out. I was like, okay, it was eating me up alive. But yeah, you know what? But the whole point is that they're doing the same thing then, and they're trying to act like it's new now.
Right.
Because they're counting on people not recognizing or remembering history.
Right. And we talked about this over and over. And I talked about it a lot with Tony Arterburn yesterday. We talked a lot about history, and it's about destroying the history because then you can get away with this type of stuff. You can act like no one's done it before.
Exactly.
Socialism's never been tried. Don't look at Venezuela. Don't look at the Soviet Union. Don't look over there. It's brand new. You've never seen it.
Yeah, yeah.
Totally insane.
I love how sometimes I have conversations with some of these now new socialist Democrats, and they want to implement socialism here in America, and they get upset when President Trump says there will never, ever be socialism. This country will never be a socialist country, right? Well, they said that they can do socialism. And I asked them, I said, well, why don't you go to Venezuela? It made me think about it when you brought it up. Why don't you go to Venezuela and show us how it's done?
Yep.
And they go, well, Venezuela is not a good example. You know? And I'm like, well, that's
a good example. I don't
know. That's what I'm telling you. I said, that's my whole point.
Yeah.
Why don't you go to Venezuela and show us how it's supposed to be done? Go tell them you did socialism completely wrong.
Right.
We're here to show you how it's done. And then come back and let me know how that works out.
Find out how dissent goes in Venezuela. And I saw a great quote that was like, they're like, we don't want Venezuela, we want to be Sweden. And it's like, well, do you think Venezuela wanted to be Venezuela? No, Venezuela thought they were going to be Sweden.
Yeah, that's true.
That's what happens. And of course, European socialism, you have the Prime Minister of Denmark during the 2016 election coming out and reprimanding Bernie Sanders, saying, stop calling Denmark a socialist country. That is a slur. That's absolutely wrong. There you go. Venezuela's collapse exposes the fake socialism debated in the USA. Socialism is death, folks. It is a worship of death. It's something but stealing from some people to give to others, and we know what it does. There you go, socialism. It's what's for dinner, because you don't got anything else to eat. All right, we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere, folks. Folks, if there is one common theme, one common thread that you can see woven throughout all of the stories that we are covering today, it is the aggressive push to eliminate or at least greatly restrict our rights guaranteed to us by the Constitution and the Bill of Rights because we are Americans. And it's coming from every different angle. And of course, now we have the marriage of these two most important rights being attacked with the red flag laws. We're both being attacked for our First Amendment and our Second Amendment. And of course, it's all predicated on the canard, the smear, the absolute lie of the rise of white nationalism and white supremacy in the country. And Will Johnson joins me for this hour, and we were talking about it during the break. And you said, how white people are being portrayed as white supremacists if they just support Trump. I said, don't think you're getting out of this. You're a white supremacist too now in this dichotomy that they've raised up. You don't have to be white to be a white supremacist.
Apparently so, because when I go on social media and I see all these people talking about white people this, and I had someone actually say, just because you're black doesn't mean you're exempt from being a white supremacist.
That's right.
The insanity.
Yeah. I
mean, you know what? The white supremacists that's in America, the number is so low. It probably doesn't even, rate on the scale at all. The number is extremely low.
Yeah.
But they don't care. They're trying to create white supremacists because, see, there are no white supremacists going out attacking people.
Right.
So the left has to create it by lying about it and trying to bring it up.
Yeah. Or just like fostering it by just constantly demonizing white people. And it's like, all right, well, I'm not a white supremacist, but I'm also not okay with being abused all the time because of my race. So we're in this weird dichotomy where it's like, I've never been a racist. I've never been a white supremacist. That's never been an aspect of my ideology or even view of the world. And yet here we are just constantly hammered in about race and called evil because of our race. What do you think people are going to do? They're going to defend themselves. It's like if you guys would stop talking about it, you'd stop creating white supremacists.
Well, I've had conversations with black liberals and even some white liberals. But the thing that really struck me was the conversation I had with some black liberals, and they said what happened to black people needs to happen to white people. Just think about that. That threw me off when I first heard that. I said, what are you saying? Do you even hear what you're saying? What was the whole point of Martin Luther King then?
Right.
He wanted to end all of it. And then these people try to cling to Martin Luther King's.
Oh, Martin Luther King would be a white supremacist now. I mean,
exactly. But
totally destroyed.
Today they try to adopt him, his movement for their own, but then turn around and try to demonize white people.
Yeah.
They don't even realize what they're saying.
You know, it's kind of it reminds me of just the classic misunderstanding of the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That's often twisted as do unto others as they did unto you, right? It's like it's not a revenge thing. It's like, look, you didn't like being oppressed. I don't blame you. But what that means is then you don't go out and oppress other people. Like, is this so hard to understand?
It's not hard to understand, but you know what? They have this agenda. And I've been saying it for about 2 years now, that the attack on the American people start at white people. If you remove white people from this country falls. I'm serious. Yeah. Take it from a black person. You remove white people from this country, the country falls. And I know there's going to be a lot of liberals that hate to hear that and hate for me to say that. But this country is what it is because the forefathers, guess what? They were white. And the ideas that they had in their heads were spot on. The U.S. Constitution was written by white men. It was spot on. And even today, the U.S. Constitution, I don't even see it as a document of history. It is a document that is applied to the American people today, and it protects all of us.
Right.
Regardless of your color. It protects all of us as humanity.
Yeah.
In this country. And you have the Democrats who want to change the Constitution. They want to get rid of the Constitution, starting with the Second Amendment, leading to the First Amendment.
Yep.
And if we don't recognize what's happening in this country, we don't recognize what's happening. Come 2020, we're not going to have a country, because if they get rid of President Trump, this country will never, ever again have another decent president like President Trump. Yep. We're done.
And I'd be surprised we avoid civil war in either case, but especially in that case. And you know, and it's also not just like that America's a white country or anything. It's like, you know, I like to think, and maybe not, because maybe the cultural influence or whatever, but I like to think if I was back in the 1700s, I would be against the dispossession of the Native Americans. I look back into history and I see what happened to the Native Americans. I see how they've been decimated and are just a shadow of the people they once were. And I think that's horrible. I think that's awful. I am against that. Now, if that happens to another group of people, I'm still against it. And so when I look to Europe and I look to America and I see the dispossession of the natives of those countries in favor of people from other countries with alternative ideas, I don't like that.
But that's just it. They are saying it needs to happen to white people now.
Right.
I mean, that's it. They're seriously saying that. And white supremacists didn't do El Paso. White supremacists didn't do Ohio. White supremacists didn't do Gilroy. White supremacists are not going out attacking people. The people that are attacking people are leftists. It's already been shown that Antifa is all about attacking the southern border. Antifa came out like a week ago saying that they're going to do something in El Paso. And sure enough, something happens in El Paso, and the liberal media completely ignores it. Why do they do that? Because they're taking a crisis. And this, what's the catchphrase? Hillary Clinton, let no good crisis go to waste. Oh, yeah, and that's exactly what they're doing. Kamala Harris is trying to gain on it.
Yep.
Beto's trying to gain on it. Cory Booker is trying to gain on it. You know, and they're all trying to use this crisis to their benefit.
That they've manufactured.
Exactly. That they manufacture. Exactly. And one thing, no one is bringing up the fact that AOC went down to the border and called them concentration camps, and how the fascist four, not the Fantastic Four, but the fascist four,
the woke squad,
or the woke squad. I heard the fascist four from Mark Dice, but the fascist four saying all of these things about the southern border. Of course, Antifa is going to be violent and do these things, and they're going to make it look like it was a white, and it still doesn't even look like it was white supremacists, because white people died.
Right. Well, this is just like the icing on the cake. This is like your point to a T. concentration camps, terrible. They're going to go down there, they're going to fight that. They're going to destroy that. And then what do you have hung up in New York but posters by Antifa that say death camps for Trump supporters now? So it's exactly what you're talking about, how you say, death camps, concentration camps. They're like, that's horrible, that's awful. We should put white people in them. And it's like, what? The hypocrisy.
I'm telling you, they have the whole goal is to do what happened to people in the past to white people today. But they don't want to recognize that it was white people that helped black people be free.
Yeah.
They don't want to talk about that. It was white people that owned the deeds to the homes on the Underground Railroad. Yep. They don't want to talk about that.
And that all these social programs were all designed on purpose to keep black people in a state of constant dependency on the U.S. government.
And black people still like it.
And they still like it.
Yes.
Totally crazy. More on the other side, folks. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Harrison Smith, Will Johnson, sitting in for David Knight on this, the 7th of August, 2019. Still talking a lot about race, but we have other stuff to talk about as well. It's just so frustrating seeing the shackles that are put on people's minds and their physical beings by the brainwashing of the MSM, and we'll get back to that in a second. But I do want to talk about the violence against Trump supporters, and I want to go to this movie trailer. It's a movie trailer for The Hunt by Universal Pictures. I believe just came out today. It might have been, I heard one got taken down. I'm not sure if this is the one that got taken down, but either way, this is the movie trailer for The Hunt by Universal Pictures.
The Manor is the ultimate in luxury. From the moment you step onto our private jet, you'll realize that hunting is not just a sport. It is a 5-star boutique experience. Our guides will ensure that your expedition is deeply rewarding as you come face to face with game unlike any you have ever hunted. The bond, the thrill, the memories. That's the Manor difference. This is the ultimate human experience. Join us for The Hunt.
And the producer of Get Out and The Purge. So in case you're listening on the radio, what you missed there was the fact that what they're hunting are people. And I have a couple quotes here from at least one of the early drafts of the screenplay. So this is the script from Damon Lindelof and Nick Cusey, reviewed by The Hollywood Reporter, and it revolves around third rail political themes. The original title was Red State versus Blue State. Here's one. Did anybody see, quote, did anybody see what that rat effer in chief just did? One character asks early in the screenplay for The Hunt. Another responds, quote, at least the hunt's coming up. Nothing better than going out to the manor and slaughtering a dozen deplorables. Oh, isn't that nice? War is war, says one character after shoving a stiletto heel through the eye of a denim-clad hillbilly. So that's not violence, apparently. That's not incitement to violence. That's not demonization of anybody. That's a movie produced by a full-fledged, top-of-the-line movie production house.
It's sickening.
Yeah.
It's sickening. You know what? If there was a movie that came out hunting Obama supporters or Democrats,
oh, we can imagine, can't we?
Actually, we're seeing a fake movie play out in the media right now today, because they're saying that white supremacists are out attacking people in America,
right?
Which is completely fake, completely false, but yet the liberal media is pushing it out there.
Yeah.
You know, I have the solution to gun control. I have the solution.
I'm ready.
Now, I wish I would, you know what? I'm begging President Trump to adopt a solution, do an executive order, and do this.
I'm excited.
Right now, if you want to solve gun control in this country, the first thing President Trump needs to do is do an executive order and make it to where every single registered Democrat can no longer own a firearm. Seriously, if you do that, then you will solve 90% of the gun violence in this country. Just be a registered Democrat. If you are a registered Democrat, you should not own a firearm. And think about it. If President Trump just even gave a hint that he was going to do an executive order to make every single Democrat turn in their firearms, the Democrats will start screaming, talking about the Second Amendment. They deserve the Second Amendment. He should do that. I'm telling you, just think about it. If he were to do that, they would scream, say, no, we need our Second Amendment.
But okay, you know what you're saying right now sounds ridiculous, right? To say, oh, I'm gonna. It
is ridiculous, right?
But that's exactly what's being. The red flag laws. That's exactly what is being put forward, are these red flag laws, so you can have people who think that if you believe in Trump, you're a Nazi and you're crazy and you're a white supremacist and dangerous, therefore, red flag, you don't get your guns. It's essentially the opposite of what you're saying.
No, but that's what think about it. The Democrats want everyone to turn in their guns anyways, right? They want law-abiding citizens to turn their guns in, not criminals, because criminals get to keep their guns. I mean, prime examples like Chicago. Yeah. They're okay with Chicago, with black people killing black people. That's fine.
60 murders.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine because they're just black people. You know, black people killing black people, you know, that's something that the left has a program in play, and they've been very successful at it. And long as black people keep killing black people, then the Democrats don't say anything. Why didn't CNN ever take one of their CNN trucks, go set up shop in Chicago and talk about the gun violence like they have in El Paso, like they have in Ohio? How come they don't ever set a presence there talking about the gun violence, that it needs to come to an end? Yep. Why? Because it's okay for black people to kill black people. See, Black Lives Matter, right? That's what they say. Black Lives Matter. No, black lives only matter to them when a cop or a white person's involved. Other than that, black lives do not matter to them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And that, I mean, Black Lives Matter. And you wonder where they went since the elections, because their funding started going towards Antifa, because they realized they had to change things up. And Chicago is the best example too, especially when you compare it to a place like my hometown, Houston, and you can see. I should have brought it in, but there's a comparison where it just breaks down the information between like gun owners, number of gun shops, and it's like, you know, Chicago, 0 gun shops, 0 legal gun shops, like no legal gun owners, like total gun control, and the murder rate is 10 or 15 times higher than
through the roof.
Yeah, even similar populations, similar demographics. Everything is very similar between Chicago and Houston. Chicago's a little bit bigger, but the only difference you see are the massive amounts of murder in Chicago and the massive amounts of gun ownership in Houston.
Well,
interesting.
Chicago is a program put in place by the left, by the Democrats. L.A., the homelessness is a program put in by the Democrats. St. Louis, Detroit, San Francisco, Oakland, all of these Democrat-ran cities that have all of these major crime-infested locations are programs put in place by the Democrats. And because it's working the way it's designed, they want to move the rest of the country in that direction.
Right. Right. Because it destroys communities. It keeps people in a constant state of dependency on the government. That's exactly what they want. They don't want you to be free. They don't want you to. And we were talking about this. I think we were talking about this during the break. This idea that the way things are portrayed now, you see so many headlines that are like, pulling yourself up by the bootstraps is white supremacy. You know, if you hear somebody say something like, you know, you can do it if you just work hard, and they're like, that's a white thing to say. And it's like, all right, so they're setting you up to believe that you're a white supremacist if you believe in hard work.
No, yeah, it's a white thing if you want to get educated. Yeah. It's a white thing if you want to have your own business. It's a white thing if you want to be successful.
Right.
It's always white if you want to do something right.
Right.
You know,
like, how do you not realize that these are your enemies telling you this? Like,
yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
I mean, it's this whole thing, like same, for example, like Baltimore. Here it is, and we were talking about during the break. Here it is, you have a white man telling black people, you don't have to live in this rat-infested conditions. And then what happens? You get the left come out saying, oh, you're racist for telling black people not to live in this filth. What's wrong with you? That's exactly what we're seeing today. That's exactly what's going on. And people don't get it.
Yeah.
Then you have black people talking about, oh yeah, he is racist, telling me that I don't have to live in this filth. Who does he think he is?
Right.
I mean, what's the ignorance, the stupidity of these people?
Right. They're essentially saying, no, I do. Well, black people do have to live in filth. How dare you tell us that we don't?
This is good. This is good.
Crazy.
The government's my daddy, and he's taking care of me. Look where I get to live in this filth.
We shouted him out yesterday. Scott Pressler, the Persistence, is leading a cleanup in Baltimore. And yesterday there was an amazing moment. They find 20-year-old trash. So these trash piles in the alleys of Baltimore have been there for 2 decades, and no one has been there to pick it up. So yeah, clean up yourself, Baltimore. Jesus.
Georgia.
Final segment of the David Knight Show for this 7th of August 2019 edition. Harrison Smith, Will Johnson sitting in for David Knight. Now, we are going to talk about Hong Kong, because Hong Kong and what's happening there is really a lesson that we need to learn from now, so we don't have to go through it ourselves. And that's what happens when the people are defenseless against their government. What happens when you want to make a change in a totalitarian, communistic place that has no free speech and absolutely no gun rights? And you see what happens in these videos. Let's go to one of these videos now, either 10 or 3, guys. These are police. The police in Hong Kong tear gassing the protesters there. And I saw graffiti from Hong Kong saying basically if peaceful protests work, we wouldn't have to keep coming back week after week. And you do notice that there's at least some coverage of this in the mainstream news, whereas the Yellow Vest protest gets absolutely no coverage, when in reality they're somewhat similar in their scale and violence. But I mean, just look at that. That is an absolute war zone. These are the people, brave people, admirable people, walking unarmed towards the fully armed and militarized police forces there. And you can see the army-like response. Now, this video is them actually gassing reporters. So these are reporters gathered, and then you see the explosions. The police have released tear gas. The police have released tear gas in the direction of the reporters. And here they come charging at the reporters. You can see there in full military combat gear. Folks, this is exactly what the New World Order is. This is exactly what happens when you give up your rights and the government gets in control. Beatings, there's even footage of shotguns being fired at protesters. These are the police tactical units. And I tweeted out today, you know, this attacking of the reporters and driving away the reporters with tear gas, that's crime, that's bad. But really, that's the small crime that's done in order to do the large crimes without being detected. I likened it to Hillary Clinton having a private email server. Yes, having a private email server is bad, and that's a crime, but really it was because she wanted a place where she could hide all of the real illegal stuff she's doing. Like, this is the tactic of evil people. You attack the people who can expose you so you can continue to do evil without it being known worldwide. Terrifying stuff coming out of Hong Kong. God bless those protesters. Have you been following this, Will?
I have very little. You know, we have so much going on here in America, but you know what? You're absolutely right. This is the New World Order on its way to take over. I mean, we see that coming here. That's exactly what the Democrats want here.
Yep.
And you know what? You said you called them protesters. When President Trump called them protesters, the liberal media got upset because he called them protesters, because they were supposed to be peaceful people just out for a cause. But then they turn around and then now the liberal media is calling them protesters.
Right.
You know, because and then the whole white shirts, right? This is where the white shirts are going out attacking people who's not complying to the communist ideology that's running rampant in that country. So let me make sure I understand this. Basically, the people are protesting because they don't want to give China, is that right? They don't want to give China the right to dictate what their law should be there in their country. Is that it in a nutshell?
Yeah, more or less, yes. I know it's transformed as the protests have gone on, but it originally started because Hong Kong was sort of a safe zone very near China, almost within China, but it was a sovereign place that did not have an extradition treaty with China. So Chinese dissidents could flee China, go to Hong Kong, and be safe from reprisals or being captured or being punished by the Chinese Communist government. The Hong Kong government decided to actually sign an extradition treaty with China, meaning that all of the dissidents in Hong Kong could then be, liable to be shipped up off to China to be killed or liquidated, whatever they do there. And so that's how it started. I know they were successful at getting that bill undone eventually, but the other thing is that just the people this is being done by, it is China is influencing it, and China is the one that is the big threat here. But at the end of the day, it's the people of Hong Kong are being led by people who do not have the people of Hong Kong's interest in mind, and they have no reason to listen to the people of Hong Kong, because the people of Hong Kong, they don't have guns. They don't have the Second Amendment.
Yeah.
They don't have a way to fight back against their government. Their government,
tyranny.
Absolute monopoly on force.
Yeah, exactly. Tyranny. You know what? It'd be nice if we could get all of the protesters there a box of Turbo Force.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm serious. I am serious. Every time I go to a rally or every time I go to an event, one of the first things that I do, I'll get Turbo Force or either Brain Force. I'll take Brain Force like an hour before I go, or if I'm on my way and I forgot, I'll have a packet of Turbo Force, and I'll put Turbo Force in some orange juice. And I know you say you've never had it that way.
I never had it that way.
But I encourage anyone, if you've never tried it, take Turbo Force and put it in some orange juice. I mean, cold orange juice, or you can even do warm orange juice. I guess it is your preference, right? But me personally, I get the really big thing of orange juice, and I put the whole packet in it, and then I'll shake it up. And I'll just sip on it throughout the entire day.
Yeah.
And it's better than coffee for me, because I'm not a coffee drinker. I'll have tea every now and then, but the Turbo Force, for example, this morning, I don't know if anyone was seeing, I had a cup of hot Turbo Force this morning. It's early.
And I hadn't heard of that. But Turbo Force is by far my favorite. Well, maybe not by far, but Turbo Force is definitely my favorite product from the InfoWars store. I love this stuff. And I was drinking some this morning, and the crew was like, hey, maybe you should just do half a packet. And I'm like, I don't think you understand my tolerance for stimulants. The amount of coffee I drink is probably not good. And yet Turbo Force is way better than any coffee. But then you come in and say you like it warm.
Yes, I like it hot. I like it hot.
Shocking.
Just like I'm drinking coffee or just like I'm drinking tea. And the hotter, the better for me. I mean, I like the extreme. But if you haven't tried it, you've got to try it. Just try it. You would be amazingly surprised.
Yeah, you really will. And again, I mean, we say it all the time, but it's everything that we do here and all of this evil that we're trying to fight against. You saw it in Hong Kong there. That is the world that is being built for us, where you have these just massive groups of faceless automaton police forces just stomping on the rights of the citizens. They can do nothing to fight back. They drive away the reporters, so it can all be done, under the shade of secrecy. And it's that's what we're trying to prevent. That's what we're trying to argue against. And we're the only voice doing it. We're the only ones trying to stand up against this.
Exactly.
And the only way we're able to do this, the only reason that we haven't succumbed to their censorship yet, the only reason we haven't been just destroyed, is because we've never taken advertisements from other people. We've never relied on somebody like George Soros to support us, or the Mercers to support us on the Republican side, or the Koch brothers or whoever. None of that ever. It's all, we're able to do this because people go to InfoWarsStore.com and make purchases like Turbo Force. And this is something I would buy anyway. It's something I would buy even if it was going to, Nestle. It's still that good.
Yeah, you know what? You're absolutely right. It's because people go to InfoWarsStore.com. But the thing that really catches my attention, it works.
Yeah, it's
the products. Yeah, I mean, seriously,
a good product. Yeah.
It's not like you're watching some crazy infomercial where you say, oh yeah, get this and try it, $19.99. But wait, you get another box. It's nothing like that. The products absolutely work. That's the amazing part to me. It's not something like, okay, just get it and try it, and then okay, we got another sale. No, it's not.
Right.
Once you try it, you're like, what have I been waiting on? This stuff is wonderful. The Brain Force absolutely works.
Oh yeah.
And it's not.
That's one that you feel.
Yeah, and it's not no big. Oh, you're like, it's no big rush or anything like that. It's like, wow. It's like clarity.
Right.
Everything just opens up. I wonder in I wonder with all of the stuff that's happening over there, how's their social score going to look? Because a lot of them, a lot of them been covering their face because they don't want to be recognized out there protesting against this tyrannical government. There's an amazing, and the social score that's coming here to America. The reason why I thought of it is because what you said, how they're trying to implement that here, and they want the social score here for all of us. I'm in trouble because I love America. I'm willing to do anything I can for America, and I'm going to fight for America. And if I have to, I'm going to die for America because this is the country that has given me so much. And I'm not going to take it just laying down. Yeah. I'm serious. And I'm not talking about being violent at all. But what's crazy is the stuff that they're doing, they're implementing. So the social score is going to affect all of us.
Well, there's an amazing photo of the Hong Kong protest where it's a massive line in front of the vestibule to buy tickets on the subway in cash, because all of the protesters know that if they buy a subway ticket with their card, it goes to their social
and
score. And they know that it's happening. And the facial recognition, there's amazing stuff where they're all the protesters are shining laser beams at all the facial recognition stuff. Don't let it get there, folks. Support InfoWars now. Fight for America now, and we can stop us from ever getting there. Thank you so much for joining us. Alex Jones starts right now.
Last night.